Tonight we're gonna look at combined inequalities, you guys, and I think we briefly discussed this in the last video, but I am going to show you guys how to do this right now, and I don't know why this thing is popping up here. There we go. Okay, so what I've done here is I've created a little chart with two rows here to help you out, and let's start with this top row. And for combined inequalities, there's two of them. Um, and they deal with whether the inequality symbol is a greater than or a less than. Okay, so right here I'm going to put a little number 1 right here so that you know which row we're talking about. So this first row is the greater than symbol. Okay, you can remember when the alligator is facing is eating the number on the left, and I have the greater than symbol right here, and then right in the corner, right where my cursor is right here, I have the greater than or equal to. They pretty much have the same function, so I just put that there because it would fall in that first row. This is just reminding you. The second one is going to tell you, the second box right here is going to tell you how the problem will look like. So part of what you're going to have to do is identify whether these problems are and or problems. Okay, so for or problems, you'll know it's an or problem because it will just straight up say or. It will say the word or in it, and so you'll know it's an or problem. Um, Another way you can do it is depending on the type of problem, you would also be able to tell. I have this trick where you would know because if it's a greater than problem, okay? Um, and then for our final answer, which is this fourth box, you will put the word or in your final answer. Okay, and this will kind of make sense once we do the example problems. But a final answer for a combined inequality where it's an or problem, you'll have the word or in the final answer. And then here when we graph is another way to distinguish between the and or problems. So what you'll do is what is happening here is instead of having just one equation or one inequality to deal with, you're going to have two. Okay, so when you have an or inequality, you're going to put your two hash marks this time on the number line. Okay, and you will draw two circles on those hash marks. And so if it's just a plain greater than, the one where there's no line, so if it just looks like this, you're going to draw open circles on those hash marks. And if it's a greater than or equal to, you'll draw filled in or closed circles. Okay, so that's what the difference is that if there's an equal sign, the equal sign underneath the inequality, you'll have to close the circles up. No equal sign, you leave them open. But the or graphs mean that the shading is going to be going away from each other. So the shading for this left dot is going away from the right dot. So they're going opposite directions, okay? The second one that we deal with is and. So the only two inequalities you have is either going to be an or an and problem. Okay. Remember, this second box shows you how the problem could come and look like. So it could just straight up say the word and in it, and you'll know it's an and problem. But another way you'll know is that it commonly comes like this, and I call this the sandwich mode, where you have two of the less than inequalities with an x or whatever variable smushed in the middle. Okay, and that's how you'll also know it's an and I like to call this sandwich because it has the letters sandwiched in between two inequalities, and then also the word sandwich has the word and in it, so that will also remind you it's an and problem. When we get to these type of problems here in the third box, another way you might be able to tell it's an and problem is it's less than, but I just realized for these third boxes we're not going to deal with this part of it yet, the greater or less than. So just copy this down so that when we do get to that lesson you'll have that. But the way you'll decipher what kind of problem it is will be the second box instead. So we're not going to deal so much with this third column right here. So second column is going to be the indicator to you guys. Final answer is not going to have the word and in it. The final answer you're going to have to sandwich when it's an and problem, okay? You do not sandwich things when it's an or problem, only when it's and. And then the only difference with the graph from or is that the shading is in between. but you'll still have open dot, closed dot, depending on whether it has the, the line underneath the inequality or not. Okay, let's go ahead and start an example here, and let's put this into action here. So here's number 1. I'm sorry I keep pressing that button there. Okay, here's number 1. First thing you need to do is figure out if this is an and or problem. So remember, this second box right here is the one that's going to help you with that. So if it's an or problem, it's just going to straight up say or. If it's an and problem, it's either going to be sandwiched or it's going to have the word and. So looking at number 1, which one does it follow here? Okay, it's an and problem. Okay, so for all of these combined inequalities, you should be able to pull out 2 inequalities from here. So here is how you do that. Here is the first inequality, that -2 all the way to that middle thing, m plus 1, and here's the second one, m plus 1 to 4. Okay, so the m plus 1 gets shared for both of them. So if you wanted to separate this into 2 inequalities, here is the -2 is less than m plus 1. Let's stick the word and in there. And then we have m plus 1 is less than or equal to 4. Okay, so if you look at this right here, it's sandwiched in between. M plus 1 is sandwiched in between, so it's an and problem. And then the m plus 1 that's in the middle gets shared with each number. And now we're just going to treat this and just solve each side. So to solve for m on this left side, I just subtract 1, and I end up with -2 minus 1 is -3 is less than m, because those guys cancel. Here's my word and. Okay, subtract 1, I end up with m is less than or equal to 3. Okay, and so here we go. Final answer. When it's an and problem, you have to sandwich, put this back in sandwich mode, so you can't have this word and here. That's a no-no. So the way that you sandwich, the letter we're dealing with in this number 1 is an M. So I put the M there and sandwich it in between the 2 less than symbols. Okay, and then you just plug them in. So in this one, the -3 would go here, and then the 3 would go here. Okay, so a way that's helped me out is I figure out where the alligator's eating. So on this left side, see how the alligator's eating M? So that means that it would have to, the -3 would have to go on this side, because that's the only side where the alligator's eating M. Where on this side, see how the alligator's eating the 3, so the 3 would have to get stuck there, because that's the only way that would fit to make the alligator eat the 3. Okay. To graph this, we just follow my little chart up there. So there's my number line. Here's -3. Here's +3. Okay. The -3 has no line underneath, so it's going to be an open circle. But my +3 does have one, so I'm going to draw a closed circle. And then the key thing for the and graph is that it's shaded in between. So that's how that will look. So your whole final answer for this is the graph plus the final inequality. Okay, let's try number 2. First thing again, remember, is to figure out and or. It says the word or, so it's an or problem. That's the only way you'll know it's an or. You solve the same way, just like we did in number 1. Solve this left side first and get y by itself. Then solve this way for next. That side next, and then get y by itself. Okay, so for number 2, I'm gonna move 1 over, so I'm gonna subtract 1 on both sides. Then I gotta get rid of that 5, so I'm gonna divide 5, and I get y is less than -1. Okay, I'm gonna drop this or all the way down to the final answer there. Okay, for this one, here we go. Let's subtract y over, because I got to get the y's all on one side there. So I have 3y is greater than 9. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. Y is greater than 3. Okay. When it's an or, the final answer can have the word or in it, so this is okay. Don't sandwich. You never ever sandwich when it's or. Remember, the word sandwich has and in it, so you only do it when it's an and problem. So you leave the or problems like this. To graph it, here's your number line. Here's -1. Here's 3. They're both going to be open circles because neither one of the inequalities have the line underneath the little symbols there, okay? So they're open circle, open circle. I go up here when it's an OR problem, I shade away. And that's it. Okay, so final answer is the graph plus your very, very last line after you've solved for the variables. Okay, that's it. Let's just practice these last two, and then we'll be good to go, okay? So for number 3, and or, it's an and, right? Because you see how this middle thing is sandwiched in between, so I'm just going to put and there so you don't forget. Here's my first half of the problem. Here's my second half. Okay, so let's write out each of those halves there. Stick the word and in the middle. And then we'll have to replug them, we'll have to resandwich at the end, okay? So for this, we're going to add 2 and add 2. Cancel, so I have x right there, less than or equal to, and then negative 3 plus 2 is going to be negative 1, so I've gotten that side done. Drop that and down there. Here we go, solve on this side. Add 2, add 2. So x is less than 6. Remember, final answer I have to put in sandwich mode. Can't have that word and in there. It's a no-no. Figure out who's eating what here. So for this one, see how the x is being eaten by the alligator? So the negative 1 would go on the left side of that. This one, the number's getting eaten, so that means the 6 would have to go here. And then we graph. Hash mark, negative 1. There's my 6. Negative 1 has that line underneath, so I'm going to close that dot. 6 doesn't, so I can open that dot, and then you just shade in between because it's an and. Okay. Alright, last one is or, so I'm going to solve this out, see how you do, and then don't forget to take the quiz.